Annabella Weska. I'm a student at La Follette High School. My pronouns are she, her. I'm excited to be with you all today. Before we begin, it's important that we acknowledge the native land that we are meeting on. We, as MMSD, acknowledge the land that we gather on today as the ancestral homeland of the Ho-Chunk Nation. This land, along with what is now called Wisconsin, has been cared for and inhabited by indigenous peoples for generations, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Menominee, Oneida, and other sovereign nations. We honor their resilience, culture, and connection to this land. We also recognize the forced removal of the native peoples from their homelands and commit to learning about the history while working together towards respect and equity for all indigenous communities. Let this acknowledgement be a step towards building stronger relationships and understanding the enduring significance of indigenous cultures here in Wisconsin. For today, we have a lot of fun activities. You might make some crafts, slime, music, and learn about RJ all together. I also want to give a warm welcome to our special guests, Superintendent Joe Gothard and Assistant Superintendent Cindy Green. We are so lucky to have them here with us and can't wait to see what they'll share with us today. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ollie. How are you all? Are you all familiar with restorative justice? Well, that's good, but it's okay if you're not, or even if you are but not 100% familiar. Restorative justice is an approach to justice that seeks to repair harm by providing an opportunity for those harmed and for those who take responsibility for the harm to communicate about and address their needs in the aftermath of a wrongful act. So what does this mean in simpler terms? Restorative justice is a chance for everyone to be heard, for all sides of the story to come to light, and a place of building without judgment. Community plays an important role in restorative justice as well. Without community, there is no room for growth. Those connections, whether big or small, make a big difference. Community is the heart of RJ. Now, sometimes restorative justice circles can be awkward or tense, but it is a solution that minimizes violence and maximizes community. Father of restorative justice, Howard Zehr, says, "Restorative justice is respect. Respect for all, even for those who we believe are different from us, even those who seem to be our enemies. Respect reminds us of our interconnectedness, that's a hard word, but also of our differences." So how does this connect to today? Well, our day is focused on the importance of restorative justice. How can youth better be heard? What steps can we take to better be seen? Society hates the idea of being wrong. And with that comes so much judgment from a simple boundary being set. We want you to know that your voice is important. Don't ever let anyone shut you down for how you feel. The purpose of today is to show you the power of RJ, to show you that your voice matters, and to show you that there are ways to be seen without causing extra problems behind it.
Thank you so much, Ollie and Annabella. My name is Avielle, or Avi is what a lot of people call me. Thank you so much for having me here today. By now you probably all know this, but happy Black History Month. So this month is so special to me because even though America gave us the shortest month of the year in 1976, I'm still so excited that we have this chance to celebrate the Black people who are special to us, our community, and our history. Black people and people of color have contributed so much to our society, it is only fitting that we celebrate them to the fullest extent. So, just because today is the last day of February and the government believes no affinity months should be celebrated, does not mean that we are allowed to stop learning and teaching the stories of Black and brown people. This event is a testament to the fact that the people in this room will not stop fighting to ensure that these stories are shared and that Black people is and forever will be American history. In honor of this, I would like for us to do a call and response chant from Asada Shakur. Please stand if you can at this time. Awesome. All right, thank you. All right, so I learned this chant when I was a freshman in high school, and an amazing teacher and mentor taught it to me. We will do this chant 3 times, each time louder than the last. It goes something like this. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. 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 Great job. Don't y'all feel empowered? That was good. I liked it. All right, so as we mentioned before, we have our 2 very special guests here with us today. First, we would like to welcome Superintendent Joe Gothard to the stage to talk about his thoughts on restorative justice, youth voice, and wellness in our schools.
Good morning, everyone. Abby's got me all fired up now. Lancers, Regions, Spartans, let's go get the game on. Pergolders, I can't forget you. So, happy Black History Month. I think it's important that we acknowledge the importance not only of the month that we celebrated, but the work we do each and every day. It's also important to acknowledge Ramadan Mubarak as the start of Ramadan begins tonight at sundown as well. You know, the reason that I was asked to come here today is talk a little bit about my journey with restorative justice, why I appreciate the work that you're doing. And I think for me, it really starts with the adults that are here with us as well, our staff and our partners who continue to make this work an important part of your day, of your experience, and truthfully, a way that you can live successfully. So adults, partners, staff that are in the room, please stand. Thank you all so much. You know, this work for us, and some of you may or may not know, I'm born and raised here, spent 20 years working in the district, and I remember when restorative justice was just a kind of a new word to my lexicon, to my vocabulary, and some of the people in this room were there with me and learning how to do this and embrace this for a school community. So I'm really proud of that. Community means a lot to me. It means a whole lot to me. Another thing that I'll share with you briefly is as I drive in here this morning, you know, my dad was born and raised right up the street here. So I drove by his old high school. I drove by my grandparents' house where he was raised. And it made me really think about today and coming and talking with all of you, how much this city, how much this school district, how much each of you means to me personally. So I'm really grateful to be here. So a little bit about my RJ journey. I think I'll start with, so I left Madison after 20 years and then went and led 2 other districts in the state of Minnesota. And I'll start with something I learned in Minnesota from a student. We were doing an event much like this. And a student said, why would I want to restore a school community that I don't like? And it was really powerful for them to share that in the way that they did about why would I restore something that's broken, that doesn't work for me and a lot of my friends. So it's made me think a lot about restorative practices, restorative justice as a reaction or as an endpoint. The work of restorative justice has to happen each and every day on strengthening, building strong communities that are cohesive, that are loving, that are forgiving, that are healing. and that make sure that no matter on your worst day that you have a place that you can show up to better yourself. Okay, if I were to define what it means to me, I just gave you a little bit of that. I wish I would have known this, though, back in 2007-ish. At the time, Madison was going through a lot of different ways to try to address student behavior. There were things like, sorry staff that remember this for bringing up old school, but above the line, below the line. Ms. Stanford, do you remember that, I bet? You know, there were things like, we were just doing a whole bunch of things, but as a principal, as a new principal, I was equipped with a couple of tools to manage student behavior. One of them was the code of conduct, right? One of them were a set of rules that said, if you don't do it this way, you're out. And that was for all students in MMSD. Yes, there were some different developmental, depending on age, but that's really what we were given. And there really were no ways outside of that, other than figuring out ways between your school staff how you could do things a little bit differently. And it made it really difficult because I, as an educator, started to realize that, this 3-day suspension doesn't really help. A student missing 3 days, maybe if a student was suspended for the beginning of the week, they'd miss the whole week and then come back. They were mad. There was never really a great place to sit down and process what took place, how we're going to make sure that we prevent that from happening in the future. It wasn't working. And I continued to see school after school at Toki, and I was the principal at Toki and the principal at La Follette, that the same students were being suspended over and over and over and over and over. So that code of conduct, I think, needed, maybe the code didn't need changes, but our approach to how we use the code needed changes, and that's where restorative practices came in for me. It came out of a lot of conversations with community partners as well, because when students weren't in school, there were things in the community that were taking place that were concerning as well. We started partnering with the YWCA. They came in and trained all of our staff on restorative practices. They trained our students and staff who volunteered to be circle keepers. We created a youth peer court. We had habitual truancy conferences in my conference room. Judge Koval, who was a huge supporter of this work, would come in his robe in my office, my conference room in my office, and that's where he conducted truancy conferences with families. I learned something about that. Families showed up to those conferences. They really did, and they engaged, and they worked with staff, and it became far more of a community approach than, again, just this thing that I have to respond to, a ticket or the threat of something being taken from me. Instead, we were there to put all solutions on the table and find a way to make things better. We had an incredible partnership with Dane County Time Bank, where students could make up for things that they did wrong or violation in a way that gave back to the community, and that those sanctions or suspensions would not be part of their record. And sometimes all that meant arrest too, where tickets were on the table in terms of a disorderly conduct or something of that nature. We found ways to say, you know what, you're better than this. Let's find a way to work as a community so that this doesn't become part of who you are. This can be a lesson in your growth. But there's another tool that principals had and still have as well. And this is another way that I think my restorative practices journey really helped me become a more effective leader. MMSD Policy 4023. It's the internal transfer policy. So as you know, some of you may know, that students can transfer from school to school within the district. And something happened at every quarter with the internal transfer policy. Principals, you know what, I'll speak for myself. I created a list that were a list of all the students who weren't attending, weren't behaving, and weren't achieving. And that list, we sent out letters that said, your internal transfer, you're being warned of losing your internal transfer. At quarter, you are going to go back to your home school if you don't achieve, attend, or behave. And it became a way for us in many ways to, and I'm just going to say it, police students who didn't feel like they wanted to be in their home school. And it really started to get to me, maybe not right away, because I was conditioned to think this way, that this is the policy, this is the way that we do it. But there was one student in particular. I won't say her name because I know Madison. Some of you might know this name. I know some of staff would for sure. But her transfer between East and La Follette was revoked. She went back to East, And then next year, guess who I saw on the first day? The same student. Once again, at quarter time, it was revoked. Went back to East. Guess what? She ended up back at LHS. But the really sad part about it is though she was 16 years of age, she did not have that many credits. And I started to see this pattern of back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, of not leading to her success. A case where the policy does not match the purpose of public education. And that is providing students the ability to be their best self and to obviously reach the graduation requirements of MMSD. The policy was getting in the way of her doing that. It changed my entire perspective because this was not a bad child at all. Loud sometimes, oh yeah. Misbehaving sometimes, plenty. But not a bad person at all. So I changed. With that last transfer back to La Follette, I said, I'm done with this. I did not create another list for internal transfers beyond that. And any student that came through the doors of La Follette, they were a La Follette student, and they were there to stay. They were absolutely there to stay. And here's the thing. I mean, yes, I could have been setting her up for failure again, too, because the code of conduct and all that stuff. But this was also at the time where we were really looking, as a system, how can we support and build a community where students feel valued, seen, heard, respected, and there's a place for students to make mistakes and come and learn from that mistake. It's not just you're out of here for 3 days and you're mad, your family's mad, everyone's mad, and it's the principal's or the school's fault. This was a place creating that kind of environment where students could say, you know what, I had a role in that too. Here's what I'm learning about myself, here's what my peers are saying as circle keepers, or here's what community partners are saying to help me, and it was really about that, restoring that community. Now let's go back to what I said at the very beginning about that student, and it was in St. Paul. Why would I restore a community that I don't respect? So to me, again, I think the real power in restorative practices is the daily work, the hourly work, the minute-by-minute work to make sure that we're creating a community that students want to be in. To me, it's really important. We want students engaged. We want students to feel welcome and respected in those spaces. So this work is really important to me, and not just because we're in high school and that's what we're supposed to do, or middle school, or we're in school period and that's what we're supposed to do. To me, this is a lesson for life that each of you can take with you. You know, as the parent of children who are now out of high school and college and working in the real world, and some of the things that they share with me about their day, again, I think the skills that we use can really be helpful to help monitor yourself, can help you understand others, and help you always look for how to build a strong community. The last thing I'll end with is this. Imagine if our country was restorative. Imagine if public education or race or language or gender identification or sexuality was looked at in a way not without judgment, but in a way of understanding, a way of learning, a way of embracing, and not tolerating, embracing, like learning and understanding. And to me, I don't know that I'd be the same person, you know, dad, spouse, partner, friend, certainly leader, today if it weren't for some of those experiences where I learned that I was wrong. I learned that the district I lead doesn't always get it right. You know, so it's not as though I speak to you like I'm over it, like my restorative practices journey is over. Not at all. I think it's a continuum. I think it's continued growth that all of us must understand is really important to who we are. Because in the end, I want you all to feel like you're your best all the time. As an individual, certainly on the groups, teams, classroom spaces that you're in, and that our community as a whole is. You give me so much hope and excitement about our future when I hear about the great work that you're doing, when I know that your leaders and your staff continue to focus on creating spaces like this. You all understand there aren't a lot of districts or schools that come together and say, let's create a space for this conversation to take place today. So student leaders, congratulations to you. Really thank you for not just pushing, but contributing so much to why this day is so important. And again, to the staff that made today possible, thank you as well. But most importantly, thank you for deciding to be here today, everyone. I hope you have a great experience, and thank you for allowing me to share with you.
Okay, let's see. Thank you, Dr. Gothard, for your amazing speech. And now we welcome Assistant Superintendent Sydney Green for her speech.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I was just thinking, I don't really have a speech, and especially after going from three amazing young people that opened up and Dr. Gothard, probably not much that I can say that will be really important, but I'll just share a few words. I do want to really acknowledge those young people and our staff that made today possible. This is no easy feat, and so if we could just honor and applaud those individuals that were part of this planning team. Having the vision to put this together and centering student voice in a way that is authentic, in a way that is doing this together and sharing power is really important. And while I was reflecting on being up on this stage a year ago, we had a multi-generational panel, and I started to think about what has been different from last year to this year that has really moved to action or change. And I don't know that I can answer what that is. And so it made me really think about the importance of today, not for an event, but the importance of today to really begin to identify the actions we need to take together, the shared power we need to have, and the work we need to do together to both improve the experiences our young people are having, but to improve our overall community together. And so I'm looking forward to today to really dig into that and to see what comes from that so that we don't come here next year and be in our third year of an event and not able to see tangible change. I was also thinking about restorative justice and where we are as a system. And for me, this is my 32nd year of education. It's been a long time. And I feel like we as a system have done a really good job, or we've done a better job, it's probably better language. We've done a better job of focusing on restoration and repairing harm. After harm has happened, we have circles, we work together. And I think we've done a pretty good job of creating the systems, the structures, the expectations, the expertise of individuals to lead that. But when I think about restorative justice, I think about what that means for who we are as a system, our overall culture, how that is part of the way and who we are and our being, and how that permeates in all of our spaces in a proactive way, and I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we can say that in the spaces we see and can feel restoration and restorative practices every day in our schools, in our experiences, in our spaces. And that is the work that I hope we can do together. That is the work that the young people, the brilliance in this room, need to help us with, and we need to honor your voice and figure out how to share that power in order to make that happen. We're not there yet. I think we can get there. And I also think about what Dr. Gothard said, and when I was reflecting on coming up here, now more than ever, as a lot of the amazing work and the things that we deeply believe in, our values, our core values, what we stand for, are being challenged right now across the country, being challenged at the national level. It is more important now than ever that we figure out together how to ensure that we're holding on to what is important to us, how we ensure we're holding on to the restorative practices, the sense of belonging, the safety, the honoring voice and perspective, honoring each other is more important now than ever, as sometimes we look around and what we have tried to build is being compromised. So I'm hoping, not just today, but into the future, that we can really figure out ways to move to action and really figure out ways together to improve our system for everybody, uplift the brilliance, uplift the good things that are happening in our system every day, and continue to make sure that we're doing better for now, but also for the future and for the young people that are to come into our system. With that, I will not take more time because I know you want to get into the good work and the things that you're actually here for, not to hear from me, but the good work that's going to be led by many of you and also by our staff. And so I just thank you all for being here. I thank you for being present. I'm deeply appreciative and grateful for being here in this space, but more importantly, for working with such amazing people that knew this was so important to put together. And so thank you all. I hope you have an amazing day.
Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Ollie and Avi. You both are amazing. Restorative justice is more than just a concept across MMSD. Students and teachers are stepping up, creating change, and building communities where every voice matters. In this documentary, made by students for students, you'll hear from students, staff, and everyone in between who are making a real impact on our schools. They are the ones who are helping students to turn conflicts into conversations and challenges into opportunities of growth. You may notice that this documentary reveals the messiness of shifting spaces, cultures, communities, and mindsets to become more restorative and less punitive. Punitive language and mindsets are still present and grappled with in this film. As you watch this film, you are invited to think about the impact of restorative justice in our schools and the challenges that are present, especially in the moments when punitive mindsets are present in language and in positions we hold. Restorative justice is not about fixing behaviors or people. It is about embracing who we are and creating communities where everyone belongs and we can be our vibrant ethnic selves. Let's start the documentary.
What's your name?
Monique.
My name is Vera Napati.
Hello, my name is Rain Mitchell, and today I'm here with
Ollie.
Hi, I'm Alicia Grant. I'm the Multicultural Student Services Coordinator here.
I'm involved with a lot of things the school does. I do theater, I do sports, I do a whole lot just for the school, and I feel like when you think of West High School's face, you're gonna see me on something.
So my role is a little different. I am a bilingual resource specialist. This role has been in existence for a little over 20 years.
I work with RJ and I'm in the club and all of that.
My name is Troy Dean. I'm a BEA here. I'm also a La Folla graduate, class of 96.
Okay guys, this is an animal in its natural habitat. I'm joking.
Today I have a couple questions for you if that's okay with you.
That's all right. Okay, we're officially recording now. Please think carefully about these questions and answer them, thoughtfully. You know what I'm saying? Don't half-ass the questions, please. That'd be greatly appreciated. Have you heard of RJ? Do you know what it is? Give a definition.
What does RJ or restorative justice mean to you?
Restorative justice means restoring justice in the community and giving people voices who may not have a voice.
Restorative justice means, to begin again, to get to a point where you have an honest conversation, where everybody has agency to tell their truth, and that they get to exist under conditions that are safe, that give you a sense of just feeling like you matter in a space. And when things are difficult or challenging, or there's some wrongs that need to be corrected or processed, that there's a chance to do that so that you can move towards the continuum of like forgiveness and healing.
RJ is a chance for everyone to be heard. It's a way to break down that power dynamic and just give everyone a chance to be themselves. I like that.
Letting the young men and women know that whatever mistakes they made, here's how we're going to fix this. So instead of just saying you're punished and not telling them why they're punished and then figure out a way not for them to be punished again, we want them to know why and then how we can fix that. That way it doesn't become a vicious circle. So with the restorative justice and the great guy that we have working here doing it, he does a great job of talking to the kids, letting the kids be heard because their voices need to be heard. And then they figure out a solution, how can we avoid this and how can we learn from this?
For me, restorative justice is really the heart of restorative justice is relationships and authenticity, really connection. At East, we use restorative justice as a framework for kind of leveling the playing field, using dialogue to open up possibility and repair harm. So it means a lot to a lot of people.
Restorative justice means a lot of things to me. One of the things is building relationships in a way that's able to heal our inner child and like the things going on inside of us, and just being able to build relationships in ways that's just able to make us better in general, make each other better, hold each other accountable, and hold ourselves accountable.
From my understanding, it's like usually happens in a circle when there's conflict, and you try to look at different perspectives from an equal place and understand that every perspective is important. Sometimes people will believe the adult before someone who's younger, or just like generally with any two groups, one may be seen as more believable than the other. And restorative justice tries to eliminate that and deal with conflict equally.
Yes, I've heard of RJ. I was in the RJ class kind of when it first started. RJ is basically just a restorative way of handling conflict. Instead of punishing people, it works to, incorporate everyone's voice and listen to how people were harmed and also how people caused harm, and being able to kind of find a solution because of that.
Making sure everyone's side of the story is heard. Like not leaving any details that can be interpreted in a wrong way or can be biased. Making sure that everyone's feelings are totally valid without any repercussions of them being told that you should not feel that way.
Restorative justice is a space to regrow. Restorative justice is a space where, you just understand life is going to be bad, and that's okay. There are things that we can do to fix it, and restorative justice is one of the ways. Restorative justice is there for the youth. A big broader term for restorative justice is justice.
It's a space of belonging, but it's also a space where uncomfortable conversations can take place to really shape your worldview and your perspective on the world.
A place where you can be yourself without worrying about what others may think. And also a place where you can break all of these stereotypes.
Restorative justice to me is definitely about relationships. It's grounded in who we are versus what we do. And I think so many times, particularly in the educational system, the focus is on what students are doing instead of who students are. And so I think at its core, restorative justice is about living in that place of who people are and not what they do. If we can live in a place of who people are, what they've experienced, we can be more empathetic and we can be more solution focused instead of exclusive, paying more attention to the humanness of our young people, but also at the same time flipping that and paying attention to the humanness of teachers and educators who are in the buildings. Because I think we miss an opportunity to really connect with each other because we're worried about what's being done and not who we are, right? Teachers expect students to do work. Students expect teachers to teach them. But somewhere in the midst of that, which those are good things, but in the midst of that, we miss our humanness, and therefore we lack those connections to build those real relationships that can make an impact in classrooms. When you have real authentic relationships and kids feel loved, adults feel accepted, adults feel authentic, then you can have, I think, true learning happening in classroom spaces that you'll be able to measure by test, but it's not determined by a test.
I know what it is. I'm a bit familiar with it, not because I've done it, but because I don't like it. Everyone normally gets in a circle and explains their perspectives of what conflict has happened, and they try to resolve it with typically a middleman trying to organize it so it doesn't turn into an argument or just result in more conflict. Hasn't done me wrong in the past, but it's been used poorly, which has resulted in a lot of bad experiences for me. Like in middle school, there were these kids that would be absolutely ridiculous and get on my nerves, basically. And restorative justice was tried multiple times with each of them, and it did not help anything.
It's probably not done correctly.
Yeah, that's what I think.
What work is being done currently in RJ and in Youth Voice that you want to make sure to amplify here and throughout the district? Where do you see restorative justice working well at La Follette, and where are there opportunities to support it even more?
The most exciting things are Restorative Justice Club and youth support. Restorative Justice Club has a lot of energy, a lot of student-led energy this year. We've started connecting with elementary schools and middle schools to mentor students and show leadership. With youth support, we designed a new program where we counsel students counsel other students, and use it as an alternative to suspension. So we have students kind of helping other students. In, I guess, in the school itself, we work really closely with the deans, the principals, to provide options and ways to mitigate, repair harm that don't have to be exclusionary. So we're trying to keep as many students here at the building and that we can. And lastly, a really exciting thing coming up is our second annual RJ Leadership Day, completely student run. The students here at East have taken a huge part of the ownership over that day. So we're looking forward to another student-led RJ leadership experience.
I don't think our school necessarily always handles conflict. I think we just try to shut it down and make it seem like it didn't happen. I think I'd like to see more of people coming to RJ after a conflict happens, because I feel like in a lot of the conflict that does happen in our school, a lot of perspectives are lost and kind of hidden, not heard. And I think during a conflict, it's necessary to hear both sides or anyone who was hurt or the victim. But I think it's just really important to go about it in a more peaceful way that, doesn't take away from anyone's humanity.
From the conflicts that I have seen that were handled by the school, some might just be two kids got into a fight over a misunderstanding, or a deeper example would be someone attacked someone else's whole identity, and that's a huge problem. So what I've seen is that the school generally just goes, oh, send them to RJ and they can sit in a circle and talk about it and then problem solved. But I don't think that's the right way to go about it, because repair is a long-term thing. It's not something that you just sit down once and fix. That's not how it works. For like conflicts that are like on a deeper level, I don't think they really handle it as well as they should. Because I think they still have that view. It's like, oh, if they talk to each other, then everything will be fine. But that's not necessarily always the case. And yeah, I think, just more information on that, or more education on that, would be nice to the school. So
Typically, what I see definitely in the hallways, I see people, you know, they try to de-escalate in a certain fashion, a certain type of way that does not work at all. It doesn't. It just riles people up again. And I feel like that's coming from the point of view of like, oh, you're just trying to talk to me as a superior. You're not understanding my feelings or whatnot. Like, their problem solving is something that needs to improve. And within their attempt at de-escalating, they kind of direct it to like one person of the group. And that's like always what happens a lot of the time, even though like, that's not what they're trying to do, but it always happens. It's always one person directly in the conflict that they direct their focus on, and it makes them feel like they're being targeted, which doesn't help nobody. I feel like that's where a lot of conflict comes from in our school, because a lot of people don't feel like they're being heard. A lot of people don't feel like, their emotions are, really being seen as emotions. They're being seen as outbursts.
Mr. Young, our restorative justice coach here, makes it a point to get to know these kids. Even the kids doesn't need to be talked to about the RJ and stuff like that. He still makes it a point to be seen in the hallways and to let these young men and women know that he is a person who they can depend on if there's an issue. And I wish when I was in school we had something like this, because it's problem solving. It's letting these young men and women know, like, here's how we work on these problems, because stuff like this may happen when you're older. Stuff may happen like this when you have your own family. So here's how we figure this out. Here's how we work on it. And here's how we avoid getting into these situations. I think all schools should have a restorative justice coach. Even if the person doesn't have a background in it, if there's someone who's in tune with the young men and women in their school, that's a great start right there. And then you can learn, you can work with other restorative justice coaches throughout the district, throughout the state, to get tools to learn what they're doing. But I think this is something that should be in every school.
I know that 99% of the time it doesn't work because of personal experience. In my opinion, what they do wrong is they try to get too involved, and their main focus in it is how can we get these kids back to class most of the time. Because no matter how much they say, we're doing this for you, we're doing this so you can have better relationships with people, if it's gotten to the point that it's already in restorative justice, that relationship is most likely not going to be saved either way. Sometimes it feels more like they're just looking for ways to get the two people back into the classroom. My opinion is just, before kids even come to you about the conflict, if you can see that there's a conflict between them or something obviously changes, like, approach them and ask them about it, because if something is starting to happen between the two, that's when you need to fix it. I've had very, very obvious signs that stuff is not going well with certain students, and the teachers kind of waited till I was physically skipping class and crying in the hallway to actually intervene about it. So, not the greatest. They only really see that there's an issue when it becomes too big of an issue.
One way I would like to is not just push the problems aside. Because sometimes I've been seeing fights going on, and then we just send them a message, an email saying like, oh, the problem is all solved, don't worry about it.
I think it feels good in areas where we're in smaller groups, like a lot of different clubs, like Restorative Justice Club, Black Student Union, and things like that. And also like in my AVID class, because that's a smaller group, that's a group that I've been like with those same kids since my freshman year. And I think I feel it more in those because it's like we're closer in those because we're actually focused on each other. And then I think where I can feel it more is like just school in general. Like there's not a lot of things where it's like we have to be together. Like a lot of it is a choice, like, or they'll say like things are for community bonding, but it's a choice really. So it's like we don't always feel like a community as a school. Like it doesn't really feel like a school community all the time.
One of the things I'm most proud of that we've accomplished at West, so I did a training with youth. I had several students come in on a day where they didn't even have school. They didn't have to be here and they wanted to come hang out with me, which is awesome. And we did an all day RJ training, just getting to know each other, talking about like what it takes to be a circle keeper, the origins of restorative justice. And at the end, I kind of proposed to them a bunch of different ideas for how they could step into leadership roles in RJ at West. And I didn't even propose this. And one of them said, you know, Ms. G, like, I want to do this every day. Like, I want a class. I want to be part of a restorative justice class. And they all echoed it and were like, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. And I'm running the second session of that class this semester. And so we do like 3 weeks of community building and then go into Dr. Maisha Wynn's pedagogical stances, history, race, language, justice, and futures matter. And through that, we talk about the unique histories that shape us. We talk about white supremacist culture and how that kind of seeps into every facet of this building. I ultimately learn more from them than I think they do from me. And that's because they're telling me like, hey, these are things I'm experiencing in this building. And these are things that I want to learn more about because I can't talk about this in other places. And one of the students said, like, my gosh, like, why do we have, like, why is physical education mandatory and this isn't? Like, why is this not something that we have? And another student said, like, in our restorative practices room, like, I love that there's no clock. Because in every spot in this building, like, everything goes by time. And so, I really kind of just let the youth lead me in a way. And so they share their ideas and things that they want to do. And I do the best I can to make those things happen as much as I can.
I think that conflict is handled relatively well here whenever students actually talk to staff. I haven't really had a lot of experience with that myself, but it does seem like staff does like individually pull students aside to talk to them and get their input and voice on the problems and actually listen, which in my experience other schools don't do that much.
I think that I see restorative justice a lot between a lot of students and staff, or students and like just teachers in general. I see this a lot because we've learned how to have more productive conversations fixing conflict between teachers and students. I wish I saw it more between just students interacting with each other. I think that that's definitely something that we could work on just in general, because a lot of the times it results in like fighting and just conflict that's not going to help. But I do think that we've done a way better job with, especially with like students and staff, because that is something that I really was really bad at first, but we've done a way better job in resolving conflict. And I have even been a part of conversations with staff and fixing conflict, and it ended up going extremely well.
How are you noticing that youth and adult wellness is interconnected right now? The theme of this year's summit is the interconnections of adult and youth wellness. Where do you see this playing out?
When we are thinking about wellness collectively, that's where the power is. I think that when we heal and when we move towards justice-oriented spaces, that we're doing this under conditions where it's collective, There's a sense of like togetherness, that everyone feels like they have a voice and that they know that they belong.
I think that we can't expect kids or adults to be okay if they don't feel like they're in the right environment, if they don't feel safe, if they don't feel happy, if they don't feel at least comfortable, even because every day we're not going to be happy. If you don't feel good in the space you're in every single day, you're not going to be productive, you're not going to be friendly, you're not going to be receptive to maybe other people's bad days, other people that are having a bad moment. So I think that I don't think training is the only thing. I think that's a piece of it for staff, but I think understanding and tolerance is a big thing, because not all kids are going to have good days every day, not all staff also. So I think laying the foundation where everybody's comfortable, at least where they are where they're supposed to be, the classes that they need, or of us as the staff, we're in the rooms we need, the classrooms we need, but making it a space where everyone's feeling welcome and at least comfortable. So that even if they do have a bad moment, they're safe. They know that they're safe. They're with people that they're safe with. They can vent to, they can go to somebody that they trust and talk to them without fear of getting in trouble. Staff too, we can talk to people where we feel safe and comfortable and heard. Essentially, if everybody had that space and those people, I think that it would be more of a reflection of RJ, because first of all, we wouldn't have as many issues. And second of all, kids would know where to go to resolve them. Staff would know where to go to resolve them and to prevent them also.
You know, it's often stressful. It's often emotional work. I do see students that are tired, staff that are tired, and really need that recharge, need that downtime, need that community. So in wellness is community, and community nourishes. And so I guess I would, first and foremost, just look for opportunities to build community, whether that's increasing passing time for students, whether that's building in more PLC time for teachers, just giving folks a chance to connect and rebuild by connecting with one another. Rebuild, recharge, however you want to say it, because it's stressful, emotional work that we do. I think we do it well, but it does take time to recharge.
When staff are able to be well, they're able to be their full selves in spaces with young people. I think it gives the young people permission to be, right, their true selves, their authentic selves, right? Staff experience loss, staff experience, right, divorce, they experience, and our kids experience these same things. And we're in the same spaces dealing with the same pains and the same disappointments, but nobody's able to be honest in a space about those things. And I think, that gets magnified through behavior. And sometimes that behavior is from students, and sometimes that behavior is from adults, because, right, we have to be professional. We have to put on a face. We have to, come here because we've chosen to do this job to serve young people. But I think we do it at a disservice to our teachers and our educators, because they're human too, right? And sometimes you need to know you have support, and you need to be able to be yourself when you come into a space, when you come into your job, because that's the same we expect of young people. And I think that happens both ways with the student and the teacher. I believe that young people are only a reflection of the adults in their lives. And so if our young people are not well, it's because the adults are not well. And the adults have the tools, they have the capacity, and they have the responsibility to be well. Because if you're not, you're transferring that onto your students, and they won't feel as safe as they could be if we were being more honest about where we are, where we want to go, how we need to deal with things that we may be struggling with, even as adults and educators in the space. So I think we need to break that cycle, and we need to consider what it would look like for us to care about the wellness of our educators, and for educators to know that their wellness, that the way that they interact, the way that they exist, absolutely has an impact on the students who are sitting before them.
This is a hard one for me because I think in my role, I talk to a lot of people in the building and a lot of people that aren't well and that are struggling, myself included. I think in particular about students of color and staff of color. And it oftentimes, we talk about noticing, like in the cafeteria, that students kind of self-segregate because they go to where they feel comfortable, and it kind of feels like staff do as well. And I think that goes with like comfortability in relationships. I think that speaks to safety, and I think that speaks to people not feeling like they fit in certain spaces. And so as it pertains to wellness, I think that's a space where like overall we're hurting. I mean, when I think about restorative justice as like what it was ultimately meant to be for the schools, like a shift in culture, I think about like what are the needs of all of us in community. And I think a lot of that comes down to uplifting the needs, particularly of communities of color, and how they say like if communities of color, if we're meeting the needs of communities of color, like that in and of itself is going to uplift everyone else. And I think there's been a lot of like lack of understanding in terms of like what does it take to do that. And I think a lot of that is decentering whiteness, and I think a lot of that is decentering privilege and yeah, I think it's just taking the time to really think about like, what is this person saying to me about what they need? And am I so bogged down in my feelings about it? Or am I actually taking in what they're saying when they're telling me what they need?
I agree.
I notice a lot of the times when a staff is overwhelmed or a teacher is overwhelmed and they have a lot going on through their life, they typically they try not to take it out on the students, but it does show in the way that they teach, the way that they grade, in the way that they just talk, which is a very human behavior. But when we are harping on our staff and like just educators in the district so much, we also are harping on the kids because they are the ones who are getting the backlash of staff not being well or educators not being well. They get the backlash, and I think as a student myself, I've felt that backlash, and I wish that when these teachers are feeling this way, that they have more breaks, that they have more time for themselves. They have what we are given as students, they should also have.
If you could make any changes to how high school is experienced by youth and adults, what changes would you make? If you could change anything in the schools, what would you change?
Decent school lunch, free school lunch that was actually edible, nap time. I feel like a lot of students would like that.
Maybe like a comment card box or like an ideas box, like by the office. I don't know, that might be nice. Or maybe like office hours where like once a week for like a time after school, students could stay and like talk to the principal or one of the like administrator people about the ideas they have or things that they think could improve.
There's always room for more to help these young men and women. You know, the one thing that I had when I was in school is a actual minority counselor. And not saying anything against any of my other counselors because they were a great help, but there's just some things in life that they didn't understand that he did. So it was great to have someone like that around. Also, it's just great to have, more staff for these young kids, like right now in this school, there's roughly, I guess about 1,700 kids, and that's double, triple probably the staff here. So when there is a kid who is suffering some type of trauma or going through some type of stress, it is hard for a counselor, a social worker, a RJ coach, or whatever to get to these kids because they have to deal with other kids throughout the school. So the more help you can get with these young men and women, the better.
I have a few ideas. They're a little out there. I've seen this culture of just running, like I mentioned before, just the running. It's exhausting. Changing spaces 7 times a day, 8 if you're including the lunchtime, is exhausting. It's a lot. Some of us don't have the physical or mental capability to go through that many changes in a day and retain and still be able to make it go to our job after school. Some kids have work, go help around the house. Like there's a lot on a plate of a child, and it is preparing them for the real world. But I think if it was me making the change, I would shorten it. I would make maybe a longer lunch period. I would stagger lunches so that there's not 2,300 kids eating at the same time, because it doesn't work. Most of the kids are either leaving. We have a ton of kids that'll miss the 5th period because they have to travel to get their lunch. I would make it so there's staggered lunch periods. It's also giving an opportunity for kids to actually sit in the cafeteria and eat, because a lot of our kids do not. I would make, maybe instead of semesters that can drag, I would make trimesters. I've seen it work where there's block schedules where they get to change classes 3 times a year instead of just 2. They get more of an experience that way. They get to meet new people, maybe build those relationships better. And I've seen the schedules where in a trimester, there's 5 periods a day. I do think that the early release being taken away affected kids in a way, because it was something to look forward to. Our days are a lot longer than some of like our home countries. Our school days are a lot shorter than here. So it'll be, I know the school year's a little longer, but it's more tropical climate, so it's okay. But like the school day would be from like, let's say 8:30, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And that's just enough, because a lot of our kids, our ELL students, they leave school and go to work. And so I think that making changes in schedules and time is going to help our high school students, especially the ones who have a lot more responsibility than just school. A lot of our kids don't have the luxury of going home to mom and dad, to a meal, to like a home. They have to go change quick and work, or go straight from school to work, provide for their family, be the one who has to make the meal, take care of the little siblings while mom and dad work. Like there's a lot on there. So taking off some of a weight from the lengthy school day, the long semesters, give them something to look forward to, prioritizing their mental health, maybe more frequent check-ins, or having more staff that are in student services that can be those people that can check in with them. What do they need? How can we help you? Because they go through a lot, and a lot of our kids who are missing the most and who are having the most problems, there's always something behind that they're going through. And it always gets overlooked because they don't trust the people that they're with. So they're not going to like tell them, I'm tired today. I fell asleep in my desk because I didn't get home till 2 a.m. because I had to help my mom with cleaning this company she's cleaning for. Like all of these things come together. And I think little changes like that, even giving them that space, it would make a huge difference. The longer periods with shorter days, less running, it's just the clock is driving everybody crazy, I think. Mm-hmm. And even me, it's a lot.
And I think for me, like it would be such a profound, deep dive into that mindset work and like that shift, and that like, no, it isn't the RJ person. It's like, what are we all doing? How are we all like assuming collective ownership over this work and holding ourselves accountable to our community? I'm seeing a lot of this work happening in pockets and in silos. And what's ultimately going to happen is we're going to keep burning through people. We're ultimately going to be pulling people of color in, wanting them to share their experience, their expertise, and saying how wonderful it is, but ultimately still expecting people of color to hold that work while our data gets worse and worse.
Something that I think the school could do to improve is be aware of all the perspectives and the way that certain things might affect one group of people versus the other group of people, and make sure that all those voices are heard instead of the dominant white voice.
Our Black and brown families, staff, and students do not have a voice. And if we say, hey, I want to hear your voice, then we do nothing about it. And that's problematic, because then we lose the trust of the staff, of the families, and of the students. So I think that we need to be very intentional of what we say we want to do, and then actually put action steps towards doing it.
I would dream up more creative use of traditional spaces like in-school suspension, like study hall, and infuse arts, infuse wellness, infuse restorative justice circles and student voice opportunities to do real-time improvements to the school, whether that's murals or public advocacy. And lastly, I guess I would just put a plug in for the things that we know work for kids in general, which is healthy foods and staying hydrated. So just a dream that we could have more healthy food on offer throughout the day, more opportunity to drink water throughout the day, and exercise. A space where students could exercise in the way they want to really turn their brain on for learning.
Hey baby, I think I wanna marry you. Okay. I probably wasn't even in the frame.
That was awesome. That was so good. Thank you to everyone who put that together. Really quickly, we've been sitting for a really long time, so if people just want to like stand up, stretch real quick, you know, side to side, you know, real quick. If you want to, touch your toes. I don't know if y'all have enough space for that. Some shoulder rolls. Huh? Big stretch. Okay, and once you're done with that, please sit back down. Please sit back down. Refocus. Thank you all. Okay, cool. Awesome, okay. All right, so, we would like to thank you all for spending time with us this morning. And we hope that you had a great time, or we hope you have a great time at the rest of this event. Before everyone goes, I'm going to lead us in a fun, calming activity that shows our interconnectedness. People in power might try to pin groups against each other, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that we are all air-breathing, flesh and blood humans who have to stand together now more than ever to make change and pave a greater path towards the future. So at this time, I would like to ask up my guest speakers. I don't know. Okay, Ollie. Yeah, Ollie. Annabella, they're out here. Okay. So this activity is called Rainfall. And during this time, the lights will be off. However, this only works if everyone is completely silent and there are no extra lights. So I have this light in my hand. It's just a little flashlight. So I'm gonna be walking around, and basically every time the light shines on you, you're gonna do an action. So the first action we have is like rubbing your hands together. So everyone practice, rub your hands together. Yep. Don't clap. Clapping is coming soon. Don't clap yet. Okay, then you're gonna switch to snapping. If you can't snap, that's okay. Oh, that sounds nice. And then you're gonna clap your hands. Okay, good. Then you can slap your thighs. Good job. Slap your thighs. And then you can stomp your feet. And then it's gonna go back down, so you slap those thighs. Clap your hands. Snap your fingers. Rub your hands. And then hands on lap. So we're gonna do that, but the lights are gonna be off. You can close your eyes if you want. I think it's really relaxing when you do. But it's gonna start off slow, and then it'll progress. So it'll be really cool. Okay, again, absolute silence. Thank you so much. Good job. Thank you guys. Thank you guys. All right, so we're gonna wait for the lights to come back on. Thank you. Good job, everyone. That was awesome. Great work. Great work. All right, so now we are going to transition into our restorative justice community building circles. Don't get up yet. Don't get up. There's more instructions. So you have a value that's written on your name tag. And basically you will now go to the studio that has that value posted on the door. So your circle group is ready to welcome you there. Thank you all again and enjoy the rest of your day. Anything else? Oh, okay, really quick, we have another announcement over here. 1 second. Oh, and no problem. The circles do end at 11:50.
I realized it might be helpful to get a little bit more information about where these rooms are. So if your room starts with a 4 A, B, C, D, they're on this level, kind of in that back corner. There's also one here, and there's one in the lobby. If your room starts with a 2, you head down to the elevators or the stairs, go down to the 2nd floor, and they're in what's basically like this hallway right below us. And actually that one down there, you'll find them. So some are up here, some are downstairs.
All right, you guys can head out now. Thank you.